You'll have to come, we'll have to go.
Yeah,
It's a lot of hard work. Ready? Okay.
We're ready.
Good morning. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Welcome to the November 4th, 2021 meeting for the Board of County Commissioners for Shawnee County. My name is Kevin Cook. I serve as the chair this year, also representing District 2. Joining me this morning is Commissioner Bill Rippon, representing District 1. Good morning.
Good morning.
Commissioner Aaron Mays, representing District 3. Good morning.
Good morning.
Madam Clerk, our first item.
consent agenda.
There are 4 items on the consent agenda. Are there any questions or is there a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Rippon, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. All opposed, reflect that it passes 3-0. Our next item.
New business, County Clerk A. Number 1, consider all voucher payments.
Commissioners, this morning we have vouchers totaling $1,310,237.65. A few items to note on that. Under elections, which would be paid with ARPA funds to election systems and software, would be $232,955. Is for the electronic poll book system. Under facilities management, public works, parks administration, and solid waste recycling, $103,753.31 is for 2 years of the Cartograph system. Under sheriff to Axon Enterprise, $42,728 is for Taser 5-year payment. And under solid waste recycling to Rare Pacific for $54,045.66 is for more refuse carts. And then finally, under sales tax to McCown Gordon, $97,080 is for the event center renovation project, and this is the final payment for the Stormont-Vail Event Center.
Not hard. Is that a motion?
Yes, motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Mays,
Second.
second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed, reflect that it passes 3-0. Our next item.
Number 2, consider correction orders.
I'll move for approval of the correction orders.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. All opposed, reflect that it passes 3-0. Our next item.
All right, A3, consider approval of resolution number 2021-102, authorizing a 2022 cereal malt beverage license to John's Food Center located at 5812 South Topeka Avenue, Topeka, Kansas, and resolution number 2021-103, authorizing a 2022 cereal malt beverage license to The Shack located at 2842 Southeast 29th Street, Topeka, Kansas.
Have all legal requirements been met by these 2 entities?
Yes, they have.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed, reflect that it passes 3-0. Our next item.
Department of Corrections, number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-374, 2021, a 36-month service agreement with Foley Equipment for 5 emergency generators at the Adult Detention Center, Juvenile Detention Center at the Correction Annex, at a combined cost of $16,005.85 per year, with funding from the agency budget.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. This is just a renewal of a service contract we have with Foley, who takes care of our emergency generators. These are life safety issues and part of our accreditation. With this, that Foley is the only one or company that deals with this type of situation, so this is sort of a sole source type situation. But we have had a good relationship with Foley. We're trying to do an extended year or months so we could get the same pricing. As you recall, a couple of years ago and even last year, we had some problems with some generators, and one of the things that I, along with Major Eve Kendall, did meet with Foley to say, look, you're going to continue the maintenance of this. We need to make sure that when situations arise, we need to make sure that our generators are working properly. We have relied on these generators in the past, and again, these are life safety areas that we have to abide by and provide for the safe and humane incarceration of those, and obviously the employees as well. And I'd stand for any questions you may have.
Any questions for Director Cole?
Brian, how often do they fire these things up, just to test?
Monthly.
Monthly?
Yeah, they do it monthly. Every once in a while, there'll be a hiccup in case there's, one time we had an accident on I-70 that was near A Street, and it knocked out a pole. They come up, but they fire them up monthly to come in and they check them and stuff like that. We're going to ask that when they do that, they go over them a little bit more thorough each month when they fire them up and things like that.
Any other questions?
No.
Is there a motion?
I'll move for approval.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Mays,
Second.
second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Reflect that it passes 3-0. Our next item.
Number 2, consider authorization and execution of contract C-375, 2021, amendment number 1 with Horizon Health Services, Inc. for a 1-year extension, January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022, for the continuation of the medical and mental health care program for inmates in the adult and juvenile detention centers at a monthly cost of $299,855.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. This is just a continuation and would be the last amendment that we have with this contract with Horizon to provide the health care and the behavioral health care for those who are incarcerated with us. We do abide by the National Commission on Correctional Health Care standards. We are fully accredited. Horizon has done a good job. And we want to make sure that we continue to provide those healthcare services and behavioral health care. This will cover us for 2022. Probably around April, we will be, or maybe sooner, we will be asking to put this out for an RFP. We feel we're at the end of the contract. We need to put it out there again to see what's out there and things like that. And we did have this budgeted for next year. And I stand for any questions you may have.
Any questions for Brian regarding this item?
No.
All right.
I would move for approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Rippon, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Reflect that it passes 3-0. Our next item.
Number 3, consider authorization and execution of contract number C-376, 2021, a 1-year service support subscription from Timekeeping Systems, Inc. for the Guard One Plus system to maintain, update our licenses, and provide the software updates and technical support to include a subscription for each of the handheld tracking devices at a cost of $24,250 with funding from the operational budget.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. This is just an upgrade to our current contract we have with Guard Tour. This is the handheld devices and the software package that we have for those officers and supervisors that use throughout the facility. They're in strategic areas of the facility. We use for both accountability to ensure the officers are at their post where they need to be, but also allows us when litigation comes up, we're able to go back and use these devices to be able to monitor and to show that we were doing our due diligence. This has helped us with our efficiency, number one. Number two, our accountability, especially those inmates that are on suicide watch. We're able to have paperless documentation that has allowed us to be much more efficient to assist the officers. We've had Guard Tour Plus for many years now. It is a very good, valuable service, and this was something that we kind of took off from other jurisdictions that were using us. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions? I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Reflect that it passes 3-0. Our next item.
Number 4, consider approval of request for the sole source purchase of 26 additional Guard One inmate tracking system devices and licensing for each at a total cost of $51,304.21, utilizing the agency's 2021 operational budget and authorization and execution of contract C-377, 2021 for same.
Good morning, Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. This is just kind of a continuation of the last request. This allows us to go ahead and purchase additional 26 more handheld devices. We used to have what they called the wand, which we'd put in these it was a very heavy handheld device. You would touch a metal button next to there. We have switched and upgraded to where these are all electronic, where they swipe and monitor a barcode. They're much lighter, much more efficient, much more durable, but this allows us to download these, and when some of them are getting downloaded, we're able to put some others there to make sure we can continue our service. So this is just an upgrade in the handhelds, which has been much more efficient and well received by staff.
Questions? I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Reflect that it passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item.
Audit Finance, number 1, consider approval of resolution number 2021-104 allocating 2022 special alcohol drug program funds.
Good morning, Betty Greiner, Director of Administrative Services. The county receives Kansas alcohol tax that is allocated to special alcohol drug program funds. The Topeka Shawnee County Alcohol Drug Abuse Advisory Council makes recommendations for those funds, and this year we are estimating it will probably be about $40,000. And then the council has recommended allocating that money for the items that are listed for prevention and resiliency services, PARS, evaluation and intervention, 13% of the money. Third Judicial District Drug Treatment Court Program, 26%, and Vallejo Behavioral Health Care for social detox, 61% of the money. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Betty, let's start with going over just where exactly this money comes from.
It comes from consumers that buy alcohol.
And that's outside of the city of Topeka or in all of Shawnee County?
I believe this is in all of Shawnee County.
Okay.
So it'd be in and outside.
All right. And then this is the council. Is there anybody present from the council that wants to speak about the recommendations?
Rochelle?
Yeah.
Is Rochelle here?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you like to speak? That would be great.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mady Chikansky. I'm from Prevention and Resiliency Services. Received a call very quickly this morning to come unannounced, so pardon my casualness. But we appreciate these funds, and our committee would just really appreciate your consideration for serving our community with alcohol and drug abuse needs.
While you're here, do you want to tell us a little bit about what PARS does and where some of the funds might go to?
Sure. We specifically use your funds that come into us for youth, drug, and alcohol evaluations and case management services for residents in Shawnee County. We provide those services for free
Okay,
with these fundings.
great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Amanda, do you want to talk about the 3rd Judicial District Drug Court and kind of what it does?
The 3rd Judicial District Drug Court is an alternative sentencing program aimed at the highest risk drug offenders. And we use funds, this general budget fund that partially funds drug court. We use those funds to provide treatment services and direct assistance such as housing, transportation assistance to those participants. And we truly believe the rehabilitation efforts that we provide to those individuals best serves the community. And we appreciate any funds that we can receive from you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I don't know if there's a representative from Vallejo present today, but Mr. Persinger came to us and spoke to us just last week about all the services that Vallejo does in the community. Commissioners, are there any questions regarding the resolution or the recommendations?
No, I'll be happy to make a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Mays,
Second.
second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Reflected it passes 3-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item.
Health Department 1, consider approval of request to fill a vacant registered nurse position in the Maternal Child Health Outreach Program at a yearly cost, including benefits of $71,309.73 with funding from the KDHE Maternal Child Health Block Grant, and to fill any subsequent position that may become vacant from filling this position.
Good morning, Commissioners. Janelle Carter, Family Health Division Manager, Health Department. I'd be happy to answer any questions based on what the clerk has reported.
Any questions regarding this item?
I'll move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Mays.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Reflected, it passes 3-0. Thank you. Our next item.
Parks Recreation, number 1, consider approval of request to solicit bids to repair the Gage Park mini train tracks with funding available from the 3R funds.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Boyd, Parks and Recreation. We are requesting that we are allowed to go out to bid to get some repairs to the mini train tracks. Sorry. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, or I've got Brett Hulsether, our fleet supervisor, that is responsible for the maintenance of the track and going to be in charge of this project.
Okay. Just a quick, is this keeping everything on the current existing course that we have for the train? I know there's been some discussions of maybe about in the future expanding the trail or the train track path, but this is just keeping the existing path?
At this time, yes, it is. We don't anticipate really doing anything major in the areas that could potentially change, so yes.
Okay. Questions?
So it looks like the corrections address areas of drainage, road crossings that restrict expansion and contraction. So what exactly does that mean?
Okay, so you got to realize that the train tracks are just sitting on the ballast. So as the sun hits those rails, they expand. And so they have to have that movement to be able to allow to expand and contract. Where it crosses the concrete roads, when they originally put it in there, they were permanently mounted in there. So that creates issues at those points. And also our curves move. So the track moves, so it needs to be adjusted on a regular basis. And so what we're looking at doing is opening up one curve in particular that is a problem, and it moves so much. So
Okay, now that answers my question. So does this mean we're going to have to do some street work within the park as well?
small areas, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Questions?
I remember at one time we had some issues with that, and we used around the tracks, some of the same material we used for playground surface, which gave it a little bit of give and take there.
Okay.
And yet it still gave us access across the tracks, and but that was something we did in the past.
Okay, we'll take a look at that.
See,
Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion to approve the request by Commissioner Rippon, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Reflected, it passes 3-0. Thank you. Our next item.
Information Technology, number 1, consider approval of request to enter into a 3-year agreement with Optiv for the Infinity program to provide a cybersecurity architect for multiple county systems to include phone support and upgrades to the covered software and hardware utilizing $185,584 from the Information Technology 2022 budget to support the first year of the 3-year purchase and authorization and execution of contract C-378, 2021 for same.
Good morning, Commissioners. Pat O'Blander with the Information Technology Department. This item was what we discussed during our budget presentation this last summer. It's a program that we'd like to enter into with our security service provider, Optiv, to redo our agreements with them for our firewall maintenance and support. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Questions? I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Reflect that it passes 3-0. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Our next item.
Number 1, discussion of capital improvement projects for 2022 budget.
Commissioners, during the budgets for 2022 this last summer, We discussed the capital outlay as well as the capital improvement projects, and we had started during that discussion as part of the budget process in August and placing it on hold until we had recommendations from the SPARK committee regarding the use of the ARPA funds, so that we would be able to have a better idea of what projects would be recommended for ARPA or what ones would be approved through our consultant for ARPA, and then leaving us to look at the capital outlay and capital improvement. So, Ms. Sauer, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, Jennifer Sauer, Audit Finance. Good summary. We're all on the same page, I think. We decided probably the easiest spot to start would be with something that has happened new since we left off. We found out that we had an opportunity to apply for a shuttered venue operating grant for the Helen Hawker Theater and for the Stormont Vail Event Center. So Shawnee County did that through the state of Kansas Small Business Administration, and we were awarded both a original grant and then a supplemental award that totaled $1.4 million. And so we actually worked with Parks and Rec and Stormont Vail Event Center and found these items that we are planning on funding using the funding that we received through the Shuttered Venue Operating Grant. So these were new things that we were able to take off the CIP, as well as taking care of some other needs that we have at those venues.
Okay. I know that there were some, such as the SV2 upper balcony masking curtains, which had been part of the Stormont Vail Event Center proposal, but we had to remove it due to not having enough funds to complete that. And so this is now a way to pick that back up.
Yes, absolutely.
And then the parking lot replacement between Domer and Landon, this is the street that runs between the two facilities?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And it's been, I think they have found it is in some need of repair.
I would agree with that.
It's worse than in some, it's very bad.
And then the campus-wide fire alarm system upgrade, this is for the Stormont Vail Event Center.
It is for more than just that facility. It is also for Domer and some of the other buildings in the campus. I believe this is one that we took care of for the Manor portion, and this is what still remains that needs to be addressed with the rest of the campus.
Okay. And then also under Stormont Vail Event Center was the Agri Hall roof replacement.
Yes. And this was brought up as a need through the ARPA funding. It was while they were looking at doing the next item that you're probably getting ready to talk about, which is Landon Arena and Exhibition Hall. There's also a need for the Ag Hall roof in the near future, so we decided to address both of those at the same time.
And these came through the state of Kansas as part of the Shuttered Venue grant, and they came to us as the owners of the facility, so that's the reason why we are administrating it.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Kellen, anything we left off?
You nailed it.
All right. Okay. Commissioners, any questions regarding the Shuttered Venue operating grant?
Did these funds, did they have the same requirements as the other ARPA?
No, they do not. They fall under the Small Business Administration grant guidelines, which are not the same as the ARPA guidelines. These fall more under straight federal grant guidelines.
Yeah. Were all these projects on our original CIP list from the ARPA funds, so, or?
The second column there shows anything, that's the original CIP project numbers from when we were discussing CIP during our budget. And then the next column lists anything that was submitted to ARPA on the ARPA CIP consideration.
Okay.
Sorry, there's lots of moving parts this year.
And Commissioners, I will let you know that in meeting with Ms. Sauer and Ms. Greiner yesterday to prepare for this meeting, rather than having an Excel spreadsheet that has everything on it, which unless you are a CPA or accountant, it was a bit overwhelming. So I asked them to break it down bit by bit for us. So Then on these, and again, the shuttered venue grant was for Helen Hawker and for Stormont Vale Event Center, so it's going to the indicated purpose.
Correct, and that is we were awarded $70,444 for Helen Hawker, and then the remaining funding was awarded for Stormont Vale Event Center, and so those need to be used in those locations as awarded.
Commissioners, any questions regarding it?
For Helen Hawker, it says roof repair. Are we just patching, or is this like replacement?
Stand by.
Good morning, Commissioner. John Boyd, Parks and Rec. That is actually to replace the east half of the flat roof membrane roof. We have done the west half under an emergency repair last year, or this spring. So this is the east half.
Okay, great, thank you.
Commissioners, at this time, I would make a motion to approve the requested expenditures under the shuttered venue operating grant.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Reflect that it passes 3-0. All right.
Okay, so the next little bit we're hoping to bite off here is the small item CIP. Normally, this is the time frame that we would be looking only at the small item CIP, but since we're still looking at the large item, it's kind of falling in the same conversation. But Commissioner Cook asked us to please take a look at them independently, which makes sense. Historically, we have had $100,000 set aside for all of the small items across the county. These are items under $50,000 that don't meet the large CIP definition, but it assists departments who don't have a lot of budget other than salaries in their budgets.
So we throw around some terms frequently, and I just want to maybe touch on it for those watching at home and those present in the room. We use the words capital improvement project, capital outlay,
Yes,
and contingency.
yes.
So if we could go through and kind of give just an operational definition for each so that we're all on the same page.
Yes.
Our capital improvements are,
It's regardless of the funding. A capital improvement project is an item that is $50,000, valued at $50,000 or more with a useful life of over 3 years, I believe. Yeah. And that is what we have defined as a capital improvement project.
and these would be planned one-time expenditures?
Yes, yes. Well, they could be, I guess. More often than not, they are. Sometimes some departments have a recurring need that they have pulled together as one large project.
But they are planned expenditures?
Yes, they are planned.
Okay. Now, our capital outlay.
Capital outlay is one of the sources of funding of the CIP. It is a fund that we have that we budget for. It's historically been $2 million. This year, I believe we have set aside $1 million in this year's budget for it. But it is a budgeted funding source for CIP projects.
Okay. And then contingency.
Contingency is for those unplanned expenditures that arise. It is budgeted money so that we have money set aside to be able to function and not have a huge hit on a department's budget for unforeseen expenditures.
I think it's just important that every once in a while we go back to our definitions and so that we're all on the same page and using the same language.
Yeah, and I appreciate it because sometimes we get emails saying, please use CIP funding, which is not a source of funding.
Okay. The capital outlay would be the source of funding?
Correct.
Okay. All right, so on our small items for 50,000 or less, I believe we have, is it?
7 items.
7 items?
Mhm.
Okay.
There are 7 items that are listed here. We received 2 from the elections office. 3 from facilities. The one from facilities for the Courthouse Utv also is showing up on the ARPA list, so that's why it has a little bit of a highlight, just so you are aware. It has not been approved for funding yet at this point through the ARPA list, so that's why it also remains on this list. And then 2 requests for Parks and Rec. And I don't know if people are here from those departments or how you want to handle that.
And at the bottom, you say available budget. $78,375.
It's over by 78,375
Okay, so
if
it's-
you were going to stay within the 100,000.
All right. So we would not be able to fund all 7 at this time.
Correct.
Okay. Going in reverse order this time, Parks and Rec, do you want to talk about the Betty Phillips parking lot?
Tim Laurent, Parks and Recreation Department. So there's not a lot to say about it other than it's in desperate need of repair. It's an asphalt parking lot that's probably 75% asphalt and 25% dirt. So it's been on our radar for a while and something we need to get done.
Okay. So this is not replacing, but actually improving.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, okay,
Does this include the driveway too? or-
The driveway's not as bad a shape, but there'll probably, I would imagine, be some patching involved. Okay. It might be a separate project, but I know it probably needs a little attention as well.
Okay.
and then as to the Lake Shawnee gazebo,
Yeah. So that's the gazebo that is there close to shelter house number 3. Stone gazebo that is in pretty bad shape. What we're asking for this is just simply to go in and shore up the stone itself. There will be other work that needs to be done there. The bank itself needs to be stabilized. The roof will need to be replaced, but we feel like this is an appropriate first step.
so would this be more along the lines of an emergency repair to keep it from completely collapsing?
I don't want, no, because it's open. I don't think we're at that point. If we felt like we were at that point, we'd have blocked it off. So I don't want people to think it's not safe, but I think it's something we need to address sooner rather than later, so we don't get to that point.
Okay.
Question on that.
Yes.
Tim, with that, I assume this is going to be a mason that fixes this?
We have had, recently, we have a new trade service vendor that facilities worked with us, and we've had them come out and look at it, that restoration group. And I think it would be a mason or someone like that would do the work.
And I know that we've had issues finding someone to do the work at Tudor Park on the stone structure there, and I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, a relatively similar type of
At
rock.
Tudor Park, they'll need to come in and rebuild sections of it. This is really more cleaning and stabilizing what is there. So it's a little bit different, but yes, I think that organization, we're hoping, could tackle both of these projects. Obviously, we would need to go out for bid on this, but they've already looked at it, and they actually, I think, have a real good handle on what needs to be done, so. Actually, we don't anymore. Yes, thank you.
So the stone itself's in good shape, just needs tuck pointing and
It
things
does
like
need
that,
tuck
but the
pointing,
stone is-
and there was actually used to be a wooden railing in there that was around that, and that's gone now. I don't think we would go back with something similar, but that needs to be replaced as well. But this, I believe, yes, is just tuck pointing and cleaning of that stone.
Good.
Is that correct, John? Yeah.
Any other questions regarding those 2 items? All right, thank you. Nelda, do you want to speak to us a little bit about the facility maintenance?
Good morning, Commissioners. Nelda Henning, Director of Facilities Management. We can start with the North Annex. We had a leak on the north side of the annex at the gutter level. In an investigation, we realized that the guttering was undersized and not appropriately located for the conditions that are occurring right now. There was a new roof installed on the north annex which raised the roof line, and the gutters were not raised at the same time. As an emergency repair that the department undertook, we did the north face gutters, and those should be installed here shortly. So we're asking for the funds to do the south face so that we can fix the issue at that location.
Okay. Then on the
Elevator cabs?
elevator cabs,
I believe last year, the elevators, the mechanisms in the elevators were upgraded along with the controls, but the cabs were not. So we would like to go back and address upgrading and modernizing the interiors of the cabs and try to get a little bit better appearance in the elevators. But it will not address the mechanics, it's just the finishes on the interior of the cabs.
Okay, so this is just a refinishing. Okay. And then.
Can I ask a
Yeah.
question on that? So we operated for quite some time without one or two elevators, and so, what's the timeline on a project like that? I assume they're gonna do it phased, one at a time, but, is this something that gets done in a week or a year?
I can't really give you a direct answer because it's going to be based on availability of materials and that type of scenario. But typically, the walls and the floors and the ceilings come in as panels. So it's just removing the existing panels and popping in new panels.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And then finally, going up to the Courthouse UTV.
I have asked for this this year due to the fact that the facilities management staff has been reduced. And when snow season comes, we anticipate that it's going to put a strain on the department, especially with the addition of 707 to our routes. We feel that a UTV will help us with snow removal and salt and sand spreading between the courthouse, around the courthouse, and to 707. I've also gotten some buy-in from other departments in the courthouse that would use it to transport materials back and forth from the courthouse to 707 due to the fact that deliveries will still be coming to the courthouse for the departments that are in 707.
In past years, there was some of the facility snow clearing and was done by Parks and Rec. Have we talked with Parks and Rec to see if there are any UTVs that they may have that are not being used that we might be able to at least get through for a year or so?
That was brought up to my attention yesterday, and no, I have not had a chance to talk to Parks and Rec yet, but it was on my list.
Okay.
Yes.
And then I also note that this was listed as being a potential ARPA but unfunded through the Rec Committee.
Yes.
Okay. Questions?
So the $30,000, that would be a pretty high-end UTV at that rate. Does that include a blade and salt spreading and everything like that as well?
This would be a street-legal UTV with an enclosed cab and a heater, so that when it's used during the winter, in the snowstorms or something like that, it would be at least tolerable. It will include a blade and a sand spreader for the bed, and it is just a two-person UTV. The doors would be removable in the summer so that it can be used during the summer for transporting materials, and the bed would be open for transporting materials.
Given that we are $78,000 already over the budget, I think it might be beneficial for us to talk to Parks and Rec too, just again to see where we might be able to cooperate or have some assistance. But any other questions? No. All right. Mr. Fisher, are you here for the elections?
I am.
Good.
I'm sorry, before you start on elections, I did want to point out, it hit me as Nelda was talking, for the North Annex amount, since that is for the North Annex, only 50% of that would be charged off to the capital outlay, because the remaining 50% would need to be allocated to solid waste, which is also up there.
So it would be then $12,500.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
All right. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jake Fisher, Assistant Shawnee County Elections Commissioner. We did have two requests that were made. I'll take them in reverse order then. One of those was a software upgrade to our Express Vote voting machines. Many times when a software upgrade is going to be done, we try to work with the other larger counties so that when we're working through any issues or any experiences we might have with those, we're all on the same page. And so with that, that's a software upgrade we're looking at. And those Express Vote machines are what you'll see at your polling places that are set up that any voter can use them, but they are primarily there so that we can comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act, and so for any of our handicapped voters. And I can move on to the second one, or I can take questions now.
Any questions regarding the software, Express Vote?
Is, maybe not necessarily for Jake, but historically speaking, are software upgrades something that we fund with capital improvement? as capital improvement projects?
Betty Griner, Director of Administrative Services. I would say it's really kind of in a gray area. It's, in some ways, it's more of a maintenance type thing of the software, but sometimes a upgrade can be a costly thing that's not a routine maintenance. So it's really, can't really give you a definite answer. It's kind of in a gray area on that one.
Okay.
And these are
Appreciate that.
specific for these machines, the software?
Yes, that's correct.
And then as to the DS200 ballot scanner battery replacement?
Yes, those batteries at this point have reached the end of their useful life. As I detailed in the application, the office's plan was to actually have done those a year ago, but with everything pertaining to COVID-19, supply chain issues, it wasn't possible to even get them at the time. And so with those, we would like to do that now. We've worked with our vendor on that. Those batteries are available. And for a little bit more background on those batteries, those are in the event that power would be lost at a polling place, it would allow voting to continue on those. Those are the machines essentially that you feed your ballot into. And hopefully we all did that here 2 days ago. But with that, another side effect is when those batteries start to get a little bit older and start to lose their efficiency, they will cause the internal clock within that DS200 to start to speed up. So if you're one of those folks that's trying to get in and vote right before polls close at 7, the machine could, in theory, say it's already past 7 p.m., you don't get to vote. And so that's another issue with these batteries. So that's a situation where they have reached their useful life and we would like to get those replaced, and they are available.
Questions?
Jake, has there ever been a situation that we know of where we lost power and everyone had to continue voting under battery machines? I mean, wouldn't the lights go out in the building and such as well? I mean,
Well, in most situations, since the facilities that we use for polling places, they would have emergency lighting systems, whether it be battery backup or something like that. But as I'll say the new guy in the office, this was my first election that I've worked in this capacity here 2 days ago. So I can't say for certain if that's happened or how often or even when.
So this is more of a safety backup, double check, just to make sure that if anything were to happen.
Absolutely. And in our office, we have 3 and 4 and 5 levels of security and redundancy and things like that to make sure that the election goes off without a hitch. And the other factor of this, though, that is important is the fact that as those batteries get old, it does start to mess with that internal clock. And so we always do a check after each election. And I know earlier this year that there were a couple units that were pulled out of service because those batteries were causing that exact issue to occur. Now, we, of course, have many backup units as well. But next year being a gubernatorial election, we're going to have more scanners out at the polling places, so we'll have more of them in service than we did here last Tuesday.
So this is anticipating a much larger election turnout for next year?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, I will not pontificate, though, like my supervisor, and try to give a number. I will just say that it will be larger than 20.3%.
Do we know how old these are now?
These are ones that came with the machine, so right now they would be at 6, almost 7 years. And so by next year, they will be 7 years.
Are we confident that the machines are going to be good for another 6 to 7 years? If
Yes.
we replace the batteries, they're not going to upgrade the technology and they'll be obsolete?
No.
Okay.
No, in talking with our vendor, no, these units will still be in use for many more years.
Okay. And they're the same type of batteries, or are these better batteries than what they had before?
They meet the same specs that are in there now. I can't comment on whether they would say they are better,
Okay.
but they would meet all the specs and, of course, be able to be used in these current machines.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim, if I could ask you, sorry to put you on the spot, right? On the facilities request for the UTV, again, in years past, the snow removal was part of the Parks and Recreation's responsibility at the court and some of the other facilities, but we changed that to go back to facilities maintenance, relieving the Parks and Rec. Looking at a expenditure for a UTV, can you talk to us a little bit what the fleet that Parks and Rec has and whether or not we would be able to combine or cooperate?
Well, I will say, well, Tim Laurent, Parks and Recreation Department. I will say that Nelda and I didn't really, we didn't really have we did mention this briefly. We talked just for a split second about it in the hallway the other day. And I did let her know that in the interim, if, when she's trying to figure out whatever she ends up doing, that we'd be happy to help. So, until she figures out what she wants to do, or I'll need to go back and ask what the status is. Do we have some equipment that we can let somebody else have or loan out? I don't want to say no right here because I haven't asked, but my gut says I will probably be met with, no, we don't have extra equipment that we can loan out. But I will absolutely follow up and find out if we can do that. And again, in the interim, if we have a big snowstorm here, hopefully we don't, we'd be happy to come down and help out until we can get this resolved.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, commissioners? Okay. So we currently are $65,875 over the $100,000 that we would have allocated for small projects.
Yes.
Okay. I would think that the Lake Shawnee gazebo repair would be probably one of more imminent and just low-hanging fruit, and so that one I would move to approve. So kind of just taking these piecemeal. That's motion to approve the $9,100 for the Lake Shawnee gazebo stone repair.
Second.
Okay. Motion made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed. Reflect that it passes 3-0.
I would say the north annex guttering needs to be done as well, so I would move that we approve that.
I'll second. Motion made by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. All opposed. Reflect that it passes 3-0. The software upgrade, I think, typically we've not done software, but given that we are again coming into a higher election next year, I would move for the approval of the software upgrade for the elections office.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed. Reflect that it passes 3-0.
I would move that we approve the parking lot repairs.
Motion made to approve the Betty Phillips parking lot repair. Is there a second?
How much over were we on our total on this?
It was 65,000, I believe.
We have 61,000 available.
Yes.
So this will leave, after that, we would have 30,000 left.
Okay, I'll second that.
Motion made by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. All opposed. That brings us to $29,875. I'll move approval of the elections office battery backup.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed. Reflect that it passes 3-0. That would then leave as unfunded the interior of the elevator cabs and the Courthouse UTV, which would then be still projects that we would look at in the future somehow. Not that they are not necessary, but they're not coming from the small item CIP. So I would move then for approval of the small item CIP as finalized, leaving, still recognizing there's 125 left of the 100,000 that we budgeted. Is there a second?
I'll second. Do we need to put that $125 into contingency or something, or does it matter?
It will just move over to the rest. That will leave you with $125 for the rest of capital or CIP.
I'll second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, reflect that it passes 3-0. Okay. That brings us then to our capital outlay and new debt.
Oh, actually,
You're going to move this to ARPA? All right,
yes,
thank you.
please. Sorry, I just wanted to get that number in before I forget it. So then the next item that we would be talking about would be what you guys requested us to take a look at, which was to present the CIP to the Spark Committee, which we did, and the Spark Committee has met several times since we last discussed CIP here. They worked with the departments and got requests from the departments that they needed funded from ARPA, and then they asked the departments to prioritize those. Using the department's priorities and then the Spark Committee members' priorities, they then were able to come up with a list of suggested approved or suggested projects to be approved for ARPA funding. In the meantime of that, because business has continued to move, there have been 6 items that have been approved through the Spark Committee and also through BCC for funding. And so those are the first few items that are here on the list. They have a different ARPA project number because they've actually gone all the way through the approval processes. But we just wanted for all full disclosure so you guys would know what has taken place. These items are listed here, and those are a consultant for the grant, administrative costs for the grant, electronic poll book replacements, which needed to be done prior to the election, space planning for 707 Quincy in the courthouse, temporarily the vaccination site rental costs. There is a pending FEMA grant application out that we are in the final stages of and hope to hear from soon, where that money could be removed from the ARPA funding, but we have to make sure that we have a funding source for it should the FEMA decline our application. And then the backlog attorneys for the DA's office. So coming down from that, I guess I should ask if you guys have any questions on those items. I don't think you do. You've already seen those all before.
Go ahead.
The backlog attorneys, weren't they legal assistants?
Yes,
Yes.
they submitted as attorneys, but they actually were legal assistants. And
And that was for 3 years worth, right?
that is a
I believe.
3-year number through the end of 2024. We have to measure that against the actual backlog, and so as soon as the backlog is considered to be caught up, that's when that funding would end.
Okay.
But from our ARPA funds, those 6 items, if I ran my calculations correctly, come to $2,208,467.
Correct.
Okay.
And then from there, the committee started looking at the projects that were requested. One more down. There were several of the courtroom renovations, that were suggested to be approved, including the audio-visual upgrades and the gallery seating. Those come to $2,246,120. I don't know if you want me to go through what all of these are, or if you just want to see them.
And I might note, it would be my preference as a chair and the commissioner today that we not take any final action on the recommendations from the Spark Committee. This has been a long time coming. From our ARPA funds, we received almost $34.5 million, roughly. The Spark Committee has been meeting regularly for months now and working with our consultant from Witt O'Brien to evaluate the capital outlay, meeting with department heads, to determine appropriate uses for the ARPA funds that would be approved through the ARPA. And this is the first time that we have published their Spark Committee's recommendations, and for all three commissioners to be present while we're discussing it. So rather than us taking action today, I would like for this to be made public so that not just trying to move on it quickly, but I think that this needs something for the public to be able to have transparency, to see the recommendations from the committee, also for all of our department heads to see the recommendations for the committee, and then for us to maybe think about and then maybe not take action on until Monday, which would be the 8th, before we would start approving or supplementing any of the recommendations.
Yes, and just to clarify, this is the first round of approvals from the committee. There are obviously more to come. These total about $17 million, which is about half of the granted amount.
So there would be 15.5 million left.
About another, we're right at about
Yeah.
50%.
Okay.
So about another 17 million still to
Okay.
come.
And then that could be used in future years or in future rounds.
Absolutely. Yes, it would have to be obligated by the end of 2024 and spent by the end of 2026.
And I would note that all three commissioners have met individually with the Spark Committee. But again, this is the first time where we are all present at the same time in an open meeting, reviewing the recommendations from the committee. So, for transparency, I think that we owe it to the taxpayers for us to at least make this published so that they would have the ability to review it as well before we take any final action. But
Yes.
Jennifer, do you want to just kind of walk through some of the outline of the recommendations?
Absolutely. As I said before, it's about $2.2 million, so $2,246,000 for various courtroom renovation costs. The detention facility made a request for the replacement of the HVAC system at the DOC annex. And also for a detainee body scanner, which would be similar to what you see at like an airport, so that it would be touch-free for all of the employees at the jail. Elections office made a request, and it was suggested to fund the polling place sanitation and cleaning, because there's been a strong request, my understanding is, from the sites that are housing the elections, that they are concerned about all of the people coming in to vote and bringing all of their germs and whatnot with them. Emergency management made a request for the EOC renovations, and that was a previous CIP project, as well as the EOC mobile communications that both the Sheriff's Office and Emergency Management had requested during CIP discussions. Facilities brought up a need for approximately $3 million worth of mechanical systems replacements to the courthouse. Sorry, I didn't write these, so I have to check over my shoulder periodically. As well as there's a $250,000 request for courthouse lighting upgrades to LED lights, and a $1.5 million request for courthouse replacement windows. Both the LED lights and the replacement windows would result in some energy savings for the county. Facilities' last request that was on the suggested approved list is for building improvements and modifications that came as a result of the space planning for both the 707 Quincy and the courthouse locations. And included in that is some repairs to the west courthouse entrance that have needed some repairs for some more time, for like tile and leakage that is on the west side of the courthouse. And that is $1.1 million. The health department had 3 requests. One was for a mobile vaccine and testing unit for them to use throughout the county. They had a request for 2 digital marquee signs that would be permanently placed at a couple locations, which would allow them to have COVID messaging, testing messaging, as well as permanent messaging for other vaccinations and things being offered at the court or at the health department. They also made a request for UVGI units and HEPA fans to be used to keep their spaces sanitized. Human Resources Department had a request of the COVID admin leave, which has been a cost to the county over the last year and will continue to be a cost over the next couple of years for paying for employees' leave while they are out on COVID leave, or due to COVID. Yes, I'm sorry, that is a non-CIP item. Thank you, I had it off to the side. There was one earlier that was a non-CIP, which was the polling place sanitation and cleaning. But as we were discussing all of the items, it kind of belonged on this list just so we could go through them. IT made 3 requests, and it was suggested that there would be funding for 3 items. Well, these are the 3 items that IT requested that was suggested for approval. The first 2 were previously on the CIP list. One was for the network distribution switch replacements for the next year, and also the Nutanix hyper-converged infrastructure platform expansion for the next year was suggested to be funded out of ARPA. The last item there is for some additional remote worker equipment purchases. The majority of those costs were covered under the CRF funding. However, after that time, there has been some additional needs pop up for either departments who did not have remote work during the initial COVID time or did not request those items from IT and were using old products. The weed department has made a request for $40,000 for roof replacement. They have a leaking roof currently, I believe, over the weed facility. The Parks and Rec made a request of $1 million for some park renovations. That would replace the 2022 and 2023 requests in the CIP that they had for park renovations. Girls softball complex phase 2 was included at $1.2 million. The campground renovation out at the Lake Shawnee was requested at $2 million. Previously, that was listed as 2 separate projects in the CIP, and they were combined into one for the ARPA funding. The Sheriff's Department made a couple of requests. These were previously acknowledged by the Board of Commissioners as being CIP projects funded out of the Sheriff's General Fund. They were requested from ARPA, and the SPARK Committee has suggested that they be funded through ARPA. The Sheriff's Training Complex upgrades, I believe specifically those were more IT upgrades and communications type upgrades out at the Sheriff's Training Complex. That was $200,000. And then the final item that was suggested to be funded using the ARPA funding it's listed as a general expense. I think originally it came through as a sheriff's item. On the CIP, it is considered a general expense because it's for the courthouse itself. It's for the entrance security scanner upgrades, so replacement of the magnetometer and the scanner that the public and the employees go through to come into the courthouse. There's 4 different units, 2 at each site, and they're all nearing the end of their useful lives. And it was suggested we would be able to replace those for $85,000.
Questions regarding the approved? I might note that in looking this over, it appeared that there was approximately $8.2 million that was going to be recommended for the courthouse itself.
I believe that's right, yes.
Through the courtrooms and the physical plant.
Mm-hmm.
And then from Parks and Rec, it appeared that a little over $4 million was recommended, 4.2 I believe, for Parks and Recreation.
Yes.
And
now,
again,
and just so you are aware, not all of those items, even though they are the same location, not all of them hit the same categories in the ARPA expense category.
I'm just kind of making those notes again.
Yes.
For those that are watching at home or present in the room, there is, of that 17,797,000, less our 2 million that we had already approved. Of the 15 million, 4 million going to Parks and Rec, and 8 million going to the courthouse, leaving us with about 3 million going to the other areas.
Correct,
Okay.
yes. And I don't know if you guys are interested. I did calculate what the percent breakdown would be for the ARPA reporting back in their broad categories.
Yes.
That's 52% for public health, 37% for negative economic impacts, 1% for infrastructure. I know that seems weird because it's $8 million going to a building. You know, that's why I was like there. It doesn't necessarily equate to an infrastructure category for ARPA. 2% for out of revenue replacement and 7% for administrative. Currently, that will change with the rent. We'll see if that comes in for the FEMA. That will drop dramatically.
But that also left 48,297,000 of unfunded ARPA requests.
Yes, that is, yeah, when you look at all the rest of these ARPA requests, which we haven't gone through, but these are the rest of the ARPA requests that were made from detention facility, elections, facilities, HR, the weed department, Parks and Rec, and the Sheriff's Department, and the Event Center. That leaves 48 million, almost $300,000 worth of unfunded ARPA requests, which means currently we're about $31 million, or almost $32 million over the funds that we have for what has actually been submitted for consideration.
Questions regarding the recommendations of the committee for the use of the ARPA? Commissioner Rippon?
All of these funds have been approved, I mean, for ARPA expenditures and.
All of them that are in that first set, the first 17 million, yes, they've all been submitted to Widow Bryan's. Widow Bryan's has reviewed them, categorized them. That's where those categories came from. And the committee has all approved all of those items that were suggested.
I have an item that's not on the ARPA list that I believe should be, and that would be the roof replacement at the DOC, $600,000. It's on our capital outlay currently, but is not on the ARPA funds, and I think it should be.
And as we move to the discussion about capital outlay, we set aside $1 million.
It's down to $900,125.
$9,125 for the use for capital outlay. So if you were to have the Department of Corrections roof project, if it does not go through ARPA, and if it was to be used as capital outlay, that would almost...
It would eat up a very large portion.
Okay. All right. On your capital outlays, we're moving to that next chart.
Mm-hmm.
On the capital outlay, there are some that are listed as being in capital outlay, and then you also have debt.
Yes.
Can you describe what the differences between those would be?
The debt would be if the department indicated they believed that this would be a project that would be beneficial to be funded through issuance of debt from the county. There is currently nothing nailed down for debt for next year. That is entirely a decision of the commission. It's just a suggestion, and it was actually made by the department. And I did want to let you know, in case you look at some items and you think you just saw them, anything that is on the capital outlay and new debt spreadsheet may appear also on the ARPA spreadsheet, but not if it was suggested to be approved for funding. So anything that was suggested to be approved for funding, we removed off of here, but anything that is, because there's still $30 million that can't be funded, we left all of those items over on this spreadsheet, but they're highlighted in purple for you, just so you have an idea that they are listed on both spreadsheets twice.
Jennifer, can you maybe touch on if we have 34, and again, I use the term $34.5 million, I know that's not the exact amount, but if we have that, why not expend all of that at once? Why only do half now, reserving half for the future?
I don't know if you want to talk to that, Betty. Basically, we don't, like, we didn't know that COVID was coming. We don't know what's coming down the line for the rest of this year or next year. So we do have some needs, some need to be able to react to anything that we don't see coming yet. But we do need to at least summarize in big terms what the plan is to do with the full $34 million fairly soon.
Yeah, I'll just expand on that a little bit. The Spark Committee has discussed that, and I do believe that we will continue to move ahead to at least come up with some broad intentions of what we intend to do with all of the whole $34 million. But we want to keep some flexibility, like she said, so in case a major emergency comes up that we really feel like we need to address with COVID or whatever, that we have a little bit of flexibility. Because this money, as she said earlier, the ARPA money does not have to be obligated until the end of 2024. So we kind of wanted to take this in kind of at least 2 steps, and it may end up being more than that. But we thought as the first round, if we kind of made recommendations for the first half of it, that would get us off to a good start. And then we can kind of get some of these projects started and get some of that money being used and out in the community with these projects and allowing businesses to bid on them and also helping local economy through that. But then take a little more time as we look at the remaining half and how we might want to allocate that out. But we will continue to move forward on that. It's not something we're just going to, wait till the last minute. Does that help at all?
It does.
I think there was some concern too about how many projects do you want to load up with. It takes a lot of resources, manpower, just to manage a lot of these projects, and you can maybe get too many going. And we have a number of years before we have to make these expenditures.
I agree. So Betty, while I have you there at the podium, the next step for the commission then, would the ARPA committee either make a recommendation, or is it the position of the ARPA committee that you have brought this forth as a recommendation? We would either be able to accept it as it's recommended, or we would be able to remove an item and add an item from capital outlay to that list.
Yes, what the committee comes up with is just a recommendation for the commission. The commission makes the ultimate decision on how the ARPA funds are spent. So this is a recommendation. You can add something, you can take something away, you could even change the amount of what was, funded for a certain project.
So for example, if we were to take the COVID administrative leave, remove it, replace it with Department of Corrections roof, taking out a $900,000 item, putting on a $600,000 item, that would be at the discretion of the commission.
You wouldn't even have to replace it with something. You could add something, you could say, we want to add this roof, so we think, we're going to go ahead and spend a little more than you recommend right now. Or you could deduct something, and say, well, for right now, we're not going to recommend that. Most all of these projects will still have to come to you for approval. This is just the funding source. Any project of this would still go through the purchasing policy and the commission approvals that would be necessary too.
Okay. Questions? All right. And then looking at the capital outlay, again, the capital outlay has all of the requested capital outlay projects that we were discussing during the budget process for 2022.
Yes. And some items are listed here with no amount for the 2022 column because the CIP is a 5-year plan, so there are multiple years listed on here. There just is no expenses currently planned for 2022 for these first few items.
Okay.
And I can filter that to actually make it so those don't show up on, no, probably cannot. Now that I say that.
Is there a way that we can, again, if we take no action today, is there a way that we can publish to our website the ARPA recommendations as well as the capital outlay new debt recommendations so that the public would be able to see those as well?
Absolutely.
And departments,
For on capital, just for 2022 or for all years?
all years. So what we have in our hands today.
Yes.
Okay. And then also, we would be listing the small items in the Stormont Vale Event Center, which have already been approved. Okay.
So it would be this, yes.
Are there any department heads that want to address the recommendations or the capital outlay or add input?
It's Jim Kraus, Shawnee County Councilor. I just want to add one thing onto what you were just saying as a member of the Spark Committee. I was interested in only recommending about half of it at this point, so that the committee would have the benefit of a full commission commenting on what had been recommended so far, so that we could get a sense of maybe what direction you would like to go with it. That was important to, I think, several committee members. That might have been obvious from a discussion you already had, but I wanted to make that point.
I do want to thank the Spark Committee. There was a lot of hard work that's been put into this, reviewing all of the applications, working with Whit O'Brien as to what would be approved or a recommended use of the ARPA funds and what would not pass muster for use of the ARPA funds. It's not an easy task to go through, and so I do want to take time. There's a lot of energy that's been put into the ARPA meetings in the committee. I know that you met regularly, weekly, sometimes more than weekly, for several months now, going through that. So thank you for all of your hard work, bringing it to us where there's no easy decisions still. But thank you. Commissioners, any other discussion for today? Okay.
At what point will we be able to make our recommendations on the other, the part of the capital outlay that aren't part of the ARPA?
I would hope that maybe on Monday, if we can tackle the ARPA and identifying what would be approved for ARPA, and then we would be able to tackle what has been left unfunded from ARPA and is a capital outlay for 2022. We could then go through our $900,125 that are left remaining.
Perfect.
All right.
Let me just ask a quick question. Never mind, I'm not gonna ask it.
Go ahead.
No, I'm fine. I corrected myself, because the only thing we would be listing on the ARPA that we would be publishing out on the website would be what is recommended for funding at this point, and then all of the rest of the items would be listed, or do you want even the items that have been requested from ARPA listed?
Go ahead and even list the ones that are requested, so the funded and unfunded.
Okay, so then I do have a question.
So at the spreadsheets and there would be duplication for some of them. And I think that it's important to note that, for example, the mini train shows up on both an unfunded as well as a capital outlay.
Yes, it shows up on 2 unfunded lists.
In the same manner, there were the projects that we've approved for small CIP that were approved this morning that would then be the 5 that we approved this morning, would be removed from the capital outlay or identified that they've already been approved for funding.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we will resume discussions of capital improvement projects for 2022 and use of the ARPA monies on Monday, November the 8th of 2021. Our next item.
Item 5, administrative communications.
This is an opportunity for any department head or member of the public to address the commission.
Good morning, Commissioners. Candace Mearpool, Shawnee County Extension Office. 2 things for you this morning. First, I want to publicly invite the Commissioners to our annual meeting for the Extension Office, November 18th at Heritage Hall. Commissioner Rippon, we've already gotten your RSVP, so no pressure.
Count me in.
Okay. So very excited to run the annual meeting for my first time. Who knows what'll happen? I don't. My second piece of news, saving the best news for last. Since our last 4-H agent left in April, we've found a replacement. Grace Weens started as the Shawnee County 4-H agent on Monday with tons of 4-H youth development experience, but I'm going to let her briefly introduce herself to you.
Good morning. Like Candace said, my name is Grace Weens, and I'm the new 4-H agent here in Shawnee County. A little bit of background information about myself. I'm a graduate of Kansas State University with a bachelor's degree in Human Development and Family Sciences with a minor program in Communication Studies. As Candace said, I have plenty of 4-H experience myself. I was a member of Reno County 4-H for 13 years, had some experiences at the local, state, and national level. I'm very excited to be here. It's my understanding that Shawnee County has had a very strong 4-H program for several years. And I'm excited to be coming in at a time where we can start picking things back up now that we're able to do some things post-COVID a little bit. I am happy to answer any questions. My door is always open for anyone that has any questions about 4-H or extension. So,
Any questions? Thank you. I'm looking forward to it and hoping that we can get things picked back up and running strong.
I'm very excited, hoping that we can get some new families and some volunteers brought in. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bill Sutton, Shawnee County Solid Waste. We're in November, first week, and I'd like to remind the Commissioners and the general public that this weekend, or this Saturday, from 9 until noon is the monthly Household Hazardous Waste event out there at the HHW building, open from 9 until noon. We encourage everybody to bring out their household hazardous waste. For information, please call 281 or 286-4381. Also, we'd like to remind everybody that next week is Veterans Week, and we will be observing Veterans Day on Thursday as well. And I'd like to tell everybody, if they do go to the homepage, and it's the first splash screen, right there it is, IT put this little solid waste schedule in there, and it opens right up to our holiday schedule for everybody to see. This is the one that confuses everybody because it kind of pops up out of nowhere, and we have a lot of calls for missed pickups. So if they're aware of the schedule, they won't get missed. And if they want to sign up for Recycle Coach, you'll never get a missed pickup. It's always right, 99% of the time. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Good to know. Always here to bring joy, our treasurer.
Good morning, Commissioners. Larry Moss, Shawnee County Treasurer. The holiday season is here, and along with that, so is tax season. And I've been getting the last couple of weeks questions about when we're going to see our tax statements, and I'm sure you're probably getting the same question. I'm happy to report that we're in our final stage of testing this week, and barring any problems that we discover, I'm hoping to start mailing those tax statements late next week. Of course, taxes will be due December the 20th, and I'll be here to remind everyone of that more than once. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Any questions for Larry? All right, thank you.
I might note that actually, if you're that anxious about knowing what the taxes are, it's already out on the web. If you go to the Treasurer's and Appraiser's website, you can see what your tax bill will be when we publish it. So that is available already today. And you could actually make a payment if you want, but I'm not encouraging it yet until I actually get the statement out. But okay, just in case you want to make that payment, go ahead. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Kurt, do we have a annual meeting tomorrow?
Courtney House, Director of Public Works. Yes, tomorrow at the Betta Sports Complex is our annual township meeting. If you recall, we didn't have one last year because of COVID. I think our attendance will be probably less than it has been traditionally, but we hope to put on a great program. And one big change for this year is Noxious Weed Department will also combine their old event with us, and John will have a little presentation for us in addition to a presentation on the 29th Street project that completed late last year.
This is always a pretty crucial meeting. It allows all the townships to get together in one meeting and meet with the county regarding roads and upkeep and any other projects that might be going on.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other administrative communications this morning? Commissioner Rippon.
I really don't have anything to add today.
Well, I thought you'd be pretty happy about having another K-State grad join our.
I am thrilled that we have another K-State grad aboard and EMA.
Commissioner Mays?
Nothing for me.
I don't have anything additional. Our next item.
Number 6, executive session.
There's not a need for an executive session today. We are adjourned.
Okay.